Hello guys, it's Lambels back again with another Python coding tutorial. Today I will be showing you guys how object-oriented programming works and how objects and classes and methods and everything work in Python. So stick out to the end of the video to understand everything, and before the video starts, I would be so happy if you guys will join my Discord down below. It's in the descriptions where you can ask all your coding video questions, everything, suggest video ideas, everything. So let's get into it. So as you might know, there are databases. So there are strings, it's a type, it's basically a class, an object, so it's a string. We have integer, we have booleans, we have a lot of like classes. All of those are classes basically, which have methods in them. So let me show you an example. So you might have heard of the upper function. This basically accepts a string object and it makes it like caps, all caps. So let me show you an example. So this x is equal to a string called, I don't know, Lambels. So you see how it's written, it doesn't have all caps. So what we can call now, so this is now a string object. So on the string object we can call, because this we need to store this as a variable, so y will be equal to x.upper. So now we're calling on this string of object. So what we can also do is we can print type of x, and we can print this. Okay, so now we can call on this type of x, which is a string. We can call this upper method, and then we can print y. You see, it's a string type. Okay, let's build. So class string, you see, so it's a string class, and we got all caps. So this is like a small example. I use strings. We can also use, for example, lists. So all caps, because it's a constant. My list is equal to a empty list, for example. Yeah. So let's see the type of my list. Okay. Oh, we need to print this out. Don't forget this, because it returns a value, doesn't print. I will show you this after. So you see, it's a class, it's a list class. So what we can do on this list class, what methods are there? So let me show you. So we can store this as basically an instance. Or we should just leave it like this. So the append function, you see, it expects an array, aka list. It's the same thing. So what we can do with this append, we can take my list and we can dot append. You see it pops up, and we can append h, for example, and now we can print my list. Okay. Oh, there was a space there. Okay, so you see it's a class list, and what it did, this method in the list class basically appends a character, a string object, to this list. So now this list has a h in it. What we can do to this h, for example, we can do something like this: x equals with h, and the type of x is an string object. So what we can append is append x.upper, for example, and let's see my list. You see, now it's a capital H. So we're basically taking this type, you see it's a list type, and we're appending to it this string type with this upper method, which only works in the string class basically. So yeah, this is my example. I hope you understand. Now let me show you a program which I wrote, and we're gonna go step by step through it so you guys understand better. Let me erase everything. So the first thing I want to explain you guys is initialize. So by clicking on this video, I hope you already know what initialize is. If you don't, there's a lot of very helpful videos from which I also learn what initialize is. I'll try to explain it, but you better go like watch a better video on it. So to create a class, the first thing you need to do is have this keyword class before it. So we're gonna create this class called student, for example. Yeah, student. Okay, so this, now you basically have a class. So in this class, what can you do? You can store methods, and we can store attributes to this class. So to create attributes, you need to have this initialize method in it. This is like how you call it. So basically in this init, what you need to put is the self. This self is basically the object itself, so you know like about which object you're talking. So initialize, and here you put the attributes. Name, for example, the student name, and his grade, for example, if you want to have his grade. So what we can do now is we can type self.name. So basically the instance, the object dot name, you remember how we had dot upper dot, so this is dot name will be equal to name. So basically this name here is this one here. So when you replace it, the self.name, I'll show you. And we'll do the same thing for grade. Grade. Okay. So now let's make an instance. This is how it's called. This is why initialize, we initialize an instance and we give it those attributes. So how you do this? So I'll name it S1 will be equal to student. So you see it's a type because it's a class, student, and here we pass in the parameters. So I'm gonna show you a wrong example. So I'm going to pass Patrick. Okay, so when I pass Patrick, it only replaces name with Patrick, but you see grade is something like which you need to pass. So I'm going to build this, and you'll see we get an error. Init missing one required positional argument, which is grade. So we didn't initialize its grade basically. So we're gonna pass in 5, for example, and now you'll see we don't get any error. So now what we can do on this student object, we can, for example, print out s1.name, for example. We see we get Patrick. We can, for example, print s1.grade 5. So yeah, this is a small example, and yeah, let's continue. So we're gonna keep this instance for later. Okay, let me put this down. Okay, so what can we do with this, I don't know, object? We can have functions such as definition, cname, for example, if you want to cname in a fancier way. So I will use this example to show you what return and print the differences between them. So we are going to return, first of all, self.name. So let's return self.name and see what's the difference between if I would have said print self.name or return self.name. So let's keep this with return. Okay, so what we can do now, we can call this on this object S1 that we have, the student object, we can call this cname. function, which method which we have here. So you will see this does nothing because it's returning the name, not printing it out. So let's see, nothing. So now if we print this out, we get Patrick. So basically this will make, so think as this as a variable. If it returns, this will be equal to this self.name, which is a string. It is a string class. So we can call on this .upper, for example, because it returns a string, all caps. So what this will return is a string object. It will return it, be equal to self.name, c.name. So what if we change this to print? So when we change it to print, this print no longer is useful to us. So you'll see it works just like this, Patrick. Because now it's not equal, it does this action, which prints it out. I recommend keeping it like this, returning it, not printing it, but it's up to you, honestly, if you understand it. So now let's go to something else. So now we're gonna work with multiple objects, multiple student objects. So let's say we want to make them friends. They're two students, we want them to be friends. So we can have this method inside, which will be called setFriend. So it will always have this self parameter. All the methods inside this class will need to have self inside, and then your parameter. So friend will be our parameter. So now what we will do is we'll make them friends. So we're going to try, this is just a way around it, you can make it any way, but I will do it with try. So we will take self. So think this self as this S1 object, for example. So if we are calling wait, let me make multiple objects. S2 will be equal to, let me copy this. Wait, no, I think I can do it like this. Faster. Tudor, for example, which a name off the top of my head, and 6. You see, now we have two objects. So if we call s1.setFriend, for example, it's not doing anything now. So if we're calling this now, self will be equal to s1. If we're calling it from s2, self will be equal to s2, basically. So think self is like, we're talking about which instance we're using, basically. So okay, so we're going to try, and we're going to do this self.recent friend, which, so this recent friend we're creating now, think as it as a parameter. So like the same thing as this. It's basically the same thing, but it's not in the initialize because it's not like an obligatory thing. Because if it's obligatory, it would have been here. And you see, if I wouldn't include this, and let me do this, you'll see it will return this error because this is, wait, no, not unexpected indent. It will return because we need this parameter, remember? Yeah, so this is basically the issue here. But we can very easily not have this recent friend here and nothing will happen. So I'm going to set his recent friend be equal to this friend here. So basically we're setting this to be equal with this friend, which you can pass anything in to be his friend, a letter, anything. So, and what we're going to do, assuming you pass here as this friend a friend object. So what we're going to do is do friend dot recent friend will be equal to self, because I cannot be your friend and you not be my friend. That's like not possible. So we've created this parameter and we're setting it to this friend, which will be an object, for example s2, and now in this object friend, which will be s2, we're setting his recent friend to self. So a student can have more than one friends, obviously. So I'm going to do this by finally. Again, you don't have to do it this way, you can just stack them under each other. And now we're going to have this is called like a given argument. So I'll show you right now. Self.friends, and we'll be setting this to an empty list. So you see it won't be here because it won't be an argument you're going to give, it's gonna be default. So it's default to this empty list. So what can we do now? We can self.friends, this is how I call this. You see it's a list, and what can we call on a list object? We can call the append on the list object, and we can append friend. So we're basically saying s1.friends.append this friend object. So we can do this the same, because I cannot be your friend and you not be my friend. Friend.friends.append self, myself, because I'm appending myself to your list basically. So let's try this. So s1.setFriend s2, and we're gonna check s2.recentFriend. So basically I'm going to be your friend and you are going to be my friend. Basically this is what's happening now. RecentFriend.name. Wait. Okay. What's the error? Oh yeah, you need to have those commas here, don't forget them like I did. So we need to print this out, don't forget, as I did, and you're gonna see that your friend, Tudor's friend, is Patrick, and he is appended to his friends list, don't forget that. So now that you kind of got the hang of it, I'm going to go into more like complex stuff, not complicated, complex. So we're going to like link two objects together and stuff. Okay, so we can add more useful functions, methods in this class, such as definition, see friends, self, and we can do this for people in self.friends. I'm going to call this friend list, and friend list. Okay, for people in self.friend list, we can print out, for example, people.name, for example. Yeah, people.name, people.grade. We can print out many things. So basically we're seeing the friends in this list. Okay, so definition, another function, we can check if he is his friend. How can we do this? We can make a method called isFriend, can pass himself, and we can pass in the the one which we're comparing, so people. So if people in self.friend list, so if he is in his friend list, then we can return true. And else we can return false, for example. Yeah. So this is again an example which we can use. So we're going to test this out. So we're setting his friend s2, and we can do s1 dot isFriend with s2, and notice that this returns. We need to print this out. Printing it out, true. Okay, so it works. So now that we have this, we can do a more complex method. So we can see if common friends, for example. So if you want to see common friends, you can use this function. And I will use this as an example to show you guys something new. Common friends, pass in the self because it's mandatory, and we can use, so this is not a mandatory parameter, for example. So I'll show you how to do this. So person will be equal to none. Okay, so it's a default argument. So if you don't pass person, for example, as you passed it here, 6 as his grade, if you don't pass it, there's no problem because it's gonna be default set to. So if person is equal to none, we're gonna set person, we're gonna set this person to be equal as self.recent friend. So if you don't pass this person argument in, it will see that person is equal to none because you didn't change it, and it will set person to be equal as self.recent friend. Else, so if you passed it in, person will be equal to person, the person you passed in. Yeah, so it's simple. Okay, so we're gonna do this logic to see if they're common friends. So for people in self.friend list, so for the friends that you have, because it's self, it's S1 or S2 depending from what you're calling it. So for the friends you have, if those friends, so those objects, those student objects are in person dot friends list. Okay, so if they're in his friends list also, so we're gonna do some checks first. So if the people is equal to self, no, we're not gonna set it equal, we're gonna check if it's equal. So remember how you're also adding yourself to his list. We don't want to check that because that's useless. If you want to be chaotic, go ahead, but I wouldn't do that. We're going to continue. No, we're going to return actually. So we're returning back, we're not doing anything. Else we're going to print people.name. No, we're actually going to continue. We're continuing because we're in a for loop. That's why. Okay, so I'm not going to test this now because I don't have, because we need to make a lot of objects, a lot of instances to test this out to see common friends. So yeah, but it's just like an example so you guys understand. So we're going to now introduce a second class, which obviously students, they have schools in which they're in, no, obviously. So the way we're going to do this, we are going to create a class called school. Done, we have a school object. So again, we're going to have our init definition, init self. I'm not explaining you this, I hope you understood this already. Self.name, and we're going to have this entrance grade, and yeah, self.name equal to name, self.entrance grade will be equal to entrance grade. Okay. And we're gonna have one again, as he has his empty friends list, we're gonna have the empty student list, because yeah, students will be equal to this empty list. So this is our init for our school object, instance class, I don't know how you want to call it. So we want to add a student, obviously. So definition add student, we're gonna pass in self as usual, and we're gonna pass in student. So it's expected that you pass in student as one of those instances, so we can access his grade, his name, etc. Even if you want his common friends, I don't know. So if student dot grade, so we're basically accessing his grade, which we have here, his attribute. So if this grade is bigger or equal to self dot entrance grade, we are going to self dot students dot append student. So yeah, and a very useful thing to have, I think, from my opinion, is to also set his school like in the student object, so we can access it from there also. So how you do this, very simple. We're going to in the init, because you can actually write it anywhere, but I'm just gonna write it in the init. Self.school is equal to none, because when you first create it, he's not gonna have a school. But if you want him to have a school, you're going to do this definition set school self and school and self dot school. So this self dot school is this one here. We're gonna set it as this school which we pass here in. So we're passing it right here. So we're passing it here, and you'll see how we'll pass it. So student dot set school student dot set school, and we're gonna set this school as self. So this instance in which we're talking about, which I'm actually going to make now. School will be equal to school, which is a type. So the name of the school, I'm gonna call it tech, and we're going to pass in this entrance grade, which will be equal to 5. So they both enter. Well, actually, let me make this 4. now we have the object, very nice. We can now replace self with school basically, but we're not gonna do that. Okay, so we want to have also an exclusion, because if he doesn't have this grade, we can print out an f string, for example, and we can have here student dot name. So this student right here doesn't meet the requirements. Okay, so let's try to set his school now. We can do this by calling on the school thing type. We can call add student, and we can add the student S1. So remember, this student has a bigger grade, so he should be allowed in. So he is allowed in. But if we now want to append add student and we want to append this S2 student, Tudor doesn't meet the requirement, so his name doesn't meet, yeah. So it works, and he will not be appended. So I will check the students in this class by doing this definition c students self. We're going to pass in self, and we're going to do this for students in self dot students, which is a list. As you can see, we're going to print studs.thing. Okay, so we're going to check this school.c students, and you see only Patrick is in the school. Wait, so you see he doesn't make it in the school because his grade is low, and he is not in this if, he is in this one, and it just prints out this f string. Okay, so now that we have those two useful, crucial methods in this school, because we want to have students, what we can do is we can change his grade. For example, let's say that this is very useful and you want to change his grade. So you can see that the grade attribute is stored in the student class. So what we can do for this to help us, we can add inside this class, the student class, we can add this method called definition change grade. Very simple, self and the grade which we want to change it with, and we're going to say very simply only self.grade equal with grade. So we're basically changing his grade, which we gave it here, this 6, we're changing it with the grade here. We're just replacing it, in better words. Okay, so we want to change his grade, as I said. So definition change grade, and we're going to do this by passing self as the usual, student, the student which we want to change the grade, and number, the number of the grade we want to change. So Discord message, go away please. So we're gonna set this equal to none, because if you forget to put it, we're gonna set it as the default as -1. So I'm gonna show this right now. So we wanna first of all check if this student is inside the student list. So if he is in this school, we can change his grade. Self.students. So if the student is inside this class, we can start modifying his grade. So again, this default parameter, again, this basically this thing here, if num is equal to none. So if he forgets to put it in, we're gonna set this number to be equal as num will be equal with his grade, student.grade -1. So we're basically setting it if he forgets to put the argument, Patrick's grade will be changed to 5 because it's his grade -1. Else num equal to num. So if he puts it in, we're gonna leave it like this. So after this check, we can change his grade. Student dot, you see, change grade. We can change his grade to the number. So yeah, this is everything, and we can also add check again an exception. We can print out an f string that the student is not in this school, and we can also print the school name, self.name. Okay, so another useful thing, again, I'm repeating myself, is if, for example, if the student doesn't meet the requirements, you can kick him out. Definition, kick out self and student. So again, we want to kick him out only if he is in this school. So if student in self dot wait, what am I typing in students. So if he is in the students in this class, we're gonna search for him for studs in self.student if studs equal with student. We are going to remove him from this list. We're going to do that by saying serve dot student dot remove studs. But a very bad thing that happened now, his school will still be the same as the last one, so we need to change that also because we want to completely wipe him out. So we're going to call this stud dot change school, and we're gonna set it to none back again. Again, what the change school do, it sets his school attribute to what we pass in, for this example, none. So this was everything. I hope you liked it. Wait, before I want to do this thing real quick. Wait, let me erase some of those lines. And I want to do this check because, for example, we can change his grade, but he still doesn't get kicked out. So what we can do, very quickly. Let me erase this. They're not useful. Okay. So you see, let me make them so that both meet the requirements. So what if I now school dot change grade, and I change the grade for S1 to 4, and we build this. You see it's finished. The grade was changed. If we now look at S1 dot grade, and we print this out, let's not forget this. It's now set to 4, his grade, but he is still in the school. Let me prove this real quick. School dot see students. Patrick is still in the school even though his grade is 4. So how can we change this? So we can make a loop, an infinite loop, while true, and we can look for the people in this school. So for people in this instance here, school dot students, if people dot grade is smaller than school dot entrance grade, which is this, in this case is 5. So if it's smaller, we can do this. So people, watch carefully. So people dot school, so we're accessing his school, which will be equal to, if we added him, which will be equal to this self. So this right here, look, people.school will return this self, this school object. So, and on this school object, we will kick him out. So we're basically accessing this kick out method, which was restricted only to this school class. Kick out, and we're going to kick out him, the child who has smaller grade. We can now also access some information about him. Student name will be equal to people.name. Okay, just name. And we can access some more information. People not grade, we can access his class. We can also access his grade if we want. So we're gonna set this equal to people.c class. Do we have this function? Wait, let me check. If not, I will write it right now. We don't. So let me real quick write this. Definition C class self. Okay. And we don't want, so if the class self.school, this thing here, if this is equal to none, we're gonna print an f string self.name is not in a school. Okay. And else we're just going to wait, let me return this actually, and else we're going to return self.school.name. So we're basically returning the school's name, which is tech. So now we have this C class thing, and we also want to So we kicked him out, and after we kick him out, we want to break. And else, because at the end we're going to print this student name equals to none, student class is equal to none. So we don't like access the dot name on nothing. And then we're going to break out of this loop here, the true loop, and we're going to print student name, and we're going to print student class. Okay. Oh no, student. Oh, I wrote student. Okay, so you see we changed his grade, so now we should get his name Patrick and his class should be nothing. Whoa, okay, let's see what the error is. So it seems that this stud, oh yeah, studs, wait no, studs, because we just wrote stud and it doesn't know what that is. Again, another error. Student has no attribute change school. Wait, change school, where did we call change school? Line 142. Kick out, no, what? 109. No, I called change school, but we named this kick out. No, wait. We named this wait, what did we name it? Set school. Okay. Student dot set build. Okay, so now it works. You see, Patrick is not in a school. Okay, so this was everything. This was quite a long video. My mouth hurts. I need to drink water. Yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you watched till here, please subscribe. What are you doing? Like, you clearly enjoy what I'm doing. I don't like how this sounds, but you gotta do the self-promotion. So yeah, have a nice day, stay safe, happy coding, goodbye.